Welcome, welcome, welcome to Narrate Your Story TV. My name is Dr. Christy Iwuchukwu, and this is the show that we bring to you every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's right, every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So what do we do at this show? This is the show that we bring you leaders and everyday people that are making changes around the world. They're creating changes around the world to bring to you tips and solution for what they've been through so that you can navigate life. So today, I have an amazing guest coming to you today. But before I talk about my guest, when I am not doing this show, I help female entrepreneurs create impactful and captivating stories that align with their offers so that they can convert sales. I help you turn your stories into a powerful and memorable presentations. So for my guest today is coming to us all the way from Texas. And her name is Denise Montgomery. Denise is an educator, writer, and a public speaker. She has written so many books, and the one that we're going to dive into today is The Blessing, an intriguing story of suspense and love gone wrong. That's right. She has written the last of her book is, for now, The Blind Spot, which was published in 2022. After graduating from school, she obtained a Bachelor of Applied Arts and Science, as well as Masters of Education from Texas Women University. She's an educator. Please help me welcome my guest today, Denise Montgomery.
Well, how are you today?
I am doing awesome. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for your time.
Yes. Glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We're going to have an awesome conversation today. You know, this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yes.
And the conversation that we're going to have today is going to be towards that. But before we begin our conversation, tell people who don't know who you are, who are you?
I'm a native Texan. Again, my name is Denise Montgomery. I started out in education and I taught in Dallas Independent School District for over 23 years. And then I went on, at the present time, I'm teaching GED part-time, and I have a nonprofit. My nonprofit focuses on seniors, helping them with technology. I have a wonderful son who's he's just a wonderful son. I also write, and as she said, I've written actually 5 books and 2 plays. And the book we're going to be discussing today is one of the books. I wrote it in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, 2012. So we'll be discussing that. And generally, I enjoy working with people. I do a lot of work with the homeless, and I'm not a victim of domestic violence, but I'm an advocate for domestic violence.
Domestic violence. Awesome. Awesome. You know, Denise, I've always said that people see you when you are their pinnacle, when you have arrived, when you have achieved something, when you are the mountaintop. But oftentimes, I say that is the walk through the valley that we gain the greatest lessons. So how our viewers understand, how has that walk through the valley been for you?
Basically, we go through things so that we can tell other people.
Yes.
So when you go through things, as I said, I've never been a victim of physical domestic violence, but verbal abuse is just as bad, because those are the scars that stay in your head and they don't leave. So having gone through a few relationships that were not what I would call the best, it has left some scars, but the scars that it left allowed me to be able to tell young women, okay, that's not going to work. Or it has allowed me to be able to help young women who need help in certain areas. So like I said, we don't go through things for ourselves. We go through things to help others.
Awesome. You put it so well. We don't go through things for ourselves. We go through things so that you can help other people, because you cannot express what you have not been through. You can
Hey,
teach
that's true.
somebody else what you have not experienced. Yes, you can read it from the book, but reading it from the book is totally different from
Right.
having experienced it. So now, when I was reading your bio and when you were talking, you said you were a community advocate for the homeless
Yes.
and domestic violent
Yes.
individuals.
I have a ministry. It's Denise Montgomery Ministries, and uh, what I do is like peer on quarterly. I would say at least 3 to 4 times a year. I go out under the bridges and the highways here in
Mhm.
Dallas to feed the homeless, or to just make sure they have blankets, or to make sure they have water, or just do whatever I can to help the homeless. And I work in a lot of the shelters, and a lot of the homeless shelters also have victims of domestic violence. So while we're there, my ministry as well as my nonprofit, we take we have when you have to get away from a situation, you don't have time to stand there and pack a bag, get all your stuff. So when women leave abusive situations, they need clothes, they don't have food, so they need things to help get their families, back up on their feet again. So I try to help women to get the clothing that they need and the food that they need. And, we've helped to pay utilities if they can get a place. So those are the type of things that we try to do with Denise Montgomery Ministries. Mhm.
Wow. So, talk to me. You haven't actually experienced physical
No,
abuse, but like you said, mental abuse is
it's just,
equally as bad
and it
because those
stays
are
with
the
you.
scars. Those are the scars that no one sees. Only you. You are the only person that is going through, and oftentimes, unless you tell somebody, nobody will ever know that you're going through an abuse.
Mm-mm. And you keep hearing, you play those tapes over and over in your head. You're stupid, you're silly, you're never gonna be anything, you're ugly, you're fat, you're not worth anything, you're worthless. And those tapes are part of your memory, or they're part of who they become, a part of your psyche. And so as soon as you decide that you want to get up and do something, you hear that tape again in your head. Oh, you can't do this. So mental is just as bad, worse to me than physical.
And oftentimes, you haven't taken the time to deal with it, to work through it.
Right.
You begin to believe that that is who you are,
Yes.
when actually it
Mhm.
is not.
You
So,
begin,
go
right.
ahead. Go ahead.
You begin to, like you said, until you take the time and you get that out of your system, you get a counselor so that you can talk and you tell yourself, I'm better than this, I'm worth more than this, oh, I'm not worthless, I do deserve better than this. Because the problem with when you stay in an abusive relationship, you begin to think that you don't deserve any better until you have to tell yourself, I deserve better.
When it comes to abuse, being in a domestic violence situation, it's something that I said that sometimes you don't know that it's coming.
No.
Sometimes you don't know that it's coming. You are into any type of relationship. It doesn't matter whether it's marriage, boyfriend and girlfriend, it really doesn't matter. Any type of relationship, an abuse can occur.
Mhm.
But let's focus more on what are the situations that one can find themselves and get into this as into a domestic violence.
Well, I found that it starts uh I like I said, I taught for many years, and I would see in high school, especially in high school and in middle school, where young women were allowing them would get in situations. He's popular, he's the captain of the football team, or he's this, he's that, and you want to be seen. So it started out as just the dating violence. And after you get into that cycle where you want to be with him, you want to continue to be popular, you want to continue to be seen. So that means you have to continue to stay in that cycle of abuse. And even after the young ladies would graduate and go on, they would still find themselves in abusive relationships. It really is a cycle, because that becomes your normal. When this man is hitting on you, and that he's telling you he loves you. He's saying I love you, but I'm still hitting on you, and I'm hitting on you so you'll do better. When he can't grow you up again. Your parents have already grown you up again, so no amount of hitting is going to grow you up. So it's actually, women don't understand it, but it's just a way for him to control you. Domestic violence is nothing. It's not about the violence. It's about control. It's about control. I need you to do, because he's insecure. So I have to beat on you to keep you here because I'm insecure.
You're absolutely right about being a way to control an individual, because there may be instances where the individual is being pulled away from
Mm-hmm.
friends and family.
Right.
Once that is done, it's almost like, I think oftentimes what I've seen is where some of us will begin to think, oh, he really loves me. He loves me. He wants to
Yes.
spend more time with me. But
Yes.
sometimes that's not the case. So talk to me. Let's dive more into this.
What
What are
happens is,
the what do you think if someone is in a relationship
hmm
that is not working well? What are the signs that that person has to look for?
what I found from talking to a lot of victims, it starts out with, he starts to isolate you, because the abuser doesn't want you around your family, because naturally your family is going to tell you to get out of that situation. So the abuser will begin to isolate you. So I usually try to tell young women, when he starts telling you, oh, you don't need to go see your parents, you don't need to, I don't want your friends over here, they're just trying to get in our business, they just want to come over here because they're jealous of you. And you see, basically that's pulling you away from safety. He's pulling you closer to him, but he's taking you away from the people that love you. So isolation, first of all. And then basically when he starts to control is, if you're working, he's telling you, let me manage the money. Give
Mm.
me your money, because he wants to keep you, you're dependent on him, right? And I've seen it go so far as young women would say, "You don't need to drive anymore. Give me your keys, because I gotta keep you in this little circle. I gotta keep you just right here, and I don't want any outside forces." So they begin to isolate you by taking your car, by telling you I need to control your money, by telling you you don't need to see your family and your friends, and before you know it, the abuse starts. You've already gotten rid of everybody. So when he starts to hit you, who are you gonna call?
Nobody.
You don't have anybody to call, because he's gotten rid of everybody. And so you don't have anybody to call, so you feel stuck. And God forbid, if you have kids, you don't have any money. How you gonna feed your kids? So if you do leave, you got to feed your babies. So that's gonna make you stay there even longer. So it's a cycle. You want to get out, but you can't get out because you don't have any money. And if you just leave, you don't want to leave your kids, but he knows you're not going to leave your kids. So he makes it where you don't have any money and you can't take care of your children. So you end up staying.
So then, so if somebody is watching this show right now, what can you tell them are the signs to look for? That
The first sign is, I don't, when he starts telling you, we don't need to go see your family. Isolation is the number one thing. Isolation. When I start taking you away from your friends, I start taking you away from your family. You look up and I'm outside your job waiting on you. Or I'm calling you on your job all day long, asking you, who did you talk to? Who's looking at you? But I'm telling you, I just love you so much. I don't want anybody else to have you. That's not love. That's stalking. So he's isolating you. Well, who did you talk to today? Or who did you say something to you today? I don't want you. You don't need that much money. Give me that money. I'll take care of it for you. So basically, it's just pulling you away from the norm and bringing you into what he considers the new norm.
so how about behavior wise inside the home? in
It's
how
all.
they relate to you? What are the signs?
It's tension, tension, tension. Just like I described in the book, in my book, it's very tense because you don't know at any minute is he gonna explode.
Hmm.
You got to do exactly what he says. You got to, you're walking on eggshells, so to speak, or you're walking on a tightrope because you don't know at any minute he could explode and he could hit you again, or he could do something to your kids again. So you're just trying to make it through another day so he won't hit you again. Can you imagine living under that type of pressure, under
That's
that type,
pressure.
that type of stress? And to be honest with you, it gets to the point where I've heard victims say, I prayed that he would hit me, so I would have to go, and he would hit me so bad I would have to go to the hospital because that meant that I could get out.
Oh, wow.
That, yeah, because if I go to the hospital, I got a chance, right? I got a chance for somebody to see me. I got a chance for somebody to talk to you. But the problem is with most abusers, they don't want to hit you where the scars are noticed. They hit you on your body and where everything is hidden and covered up. So they know, unless they're just really stupid, they hit you in your face, somebody's gonna see it. But they usually hit you somewhere in your body so it's not seen.
So we're talking about isolation, the signs being isolation and things being so tense at home that
Oh,
sometimes you feel like you have to walk on an eggshell because
yes,
you
I don't
never know
tightrope.
when that
Yes.
bubble will pop, right?
You don't know when the bubble is gonna pop. You don't know if you may come in one day and he didn't like the way you cook dinner. So you never know exactly what's gonna set him off. I don't know what's gonna set you off today.
Mhm.
Maybe I didn't wash your shirt right. Maybe I didn't bring you the food quick enough. You don't know what this abuser is gonna do. So you walking on eggshells every day. You don't know.
You talked about control in terms of money, and that is, I think I heard somebody saying once a woman gives up control of her money to the spouse, she's finished. I think it was Dr. George Judy. I think I heard it from. And
Yeah, knowing her it was.
I know that's not always the case. That's some to some
No,
extent that is, but we also know that everything we're saying is not always the case.
no,
There are some common.
there is no 100%. But if you're in a normal relationship, the couple is putting their money together and they're working toward a goal.
Yes,
That's not
yes,
what we're describing here.
yes. I
We're
just wanted.
describing No, we're not describing a normal, loving relationship. You and the husband, you and him both have access. What I'm describing is he takes your money, then you no longer have access to it. That's
Yes,
what we're talking about. When
yes,
you take
yes.
my money and I can't go to the store and buy a package of potato chips because you tell me I don't need it. I can't get the toiletries and the feminine products that I need for myself. I have to go and ask you, can I get this or can I do this? That's abuse. And you working every day, that's abuse.
That's an abuse. That's an abuse. Absolutely. There's been instances where the woman will get the money, get the paycheck, and hand it over, turn around and go. Maybe if they want some clothes, they will go to the store, look at some fabrics, and then go look at the style and find a way to sew it themselves
Yes.
because the money will not be given to them. Like you said, it's a sort of control. But oftentimes, there's some control that is, there's some abusive relationship that is so subliminal. In other words,
Mm,
you don't even know that it is an
right.
abuse.
And you don't, and really, and the person, if you asked them, they wouldn't think it's abuse either.
Exactly, and that's what's so difficult because the person in it, because for you to be able to help somebody else, the person in that relationship has to know that it is an abuse. They have to
Yes.
agree to get some help
They
because
have to
otherwise,
you have to acknowledge first off that there is a problem.
yes,
If I keep saying, oh, nothing's wrong, nothing wrong, well, I got a black eye today, oh, nothing's wrong, oh, nothing's wrong, we're okay, because you're afraid. So you can't help somebody that won't acknowledge that there's a problem.
Absolutely. And adding on to the signs is, I mean, that's just obvious. The beating
Hmm.
back and forth, where, oh my goodness, like you said, you never know when it's going to come. I
Hmm.
don't know that if you love me, that you're going to be hitting me. Absolutely. That's a domestic violence situation. And, oftentimes we've heard individuals that die in a relationship because they refuse to get out of that relationship, because maybe they have children. And because of the children, they don't get out. And we're going to dive into the children part, because what I know that I've seen is that sometimes when they don't get out because of
Right.
the children are also
Oh my
impacted.
God. And
So talk to me.
I have a situation right now that I'm dealing with where the young lady was being abused. And see, and you know how you tell your child, go in your room and close the door,
Mhm.
but they can't close their ears. They still
Mm.
hear it. They still hear it, and that's still trauma. This child still hears their mother being beaten or being abused. So I have a situation now where uh, the child is acting out. When you see children acting out at school, or they're doing things at school, and and you asking, or what's going on? Something is going on at home that they don't, and they can't talk about it because children have, they don't want to get their parents in trouble. So it stays with you. I have another client, another person that I met, and she was telling me that she still hears her mother. She can
Oh,
still
wow.
hear the sounds her mother made when she was being beaten. And she, to this day, she's much older, but she says, I can still hear my mother's screams in the other room. So
Oh,
that kind
wow.
of trauma stays with you. And but she made up her mind, I will never be hit again. I mean, I will never be hit. So she grew up with that determination that I will never be hit. Okay. But still, at some point in time, like I told you, the abuse is in your head and you hear things. You hearing things, and you never forget that sound of your mother being beaten up. It stays with the children.
It stays with the children. And oftentimes they are staying, really. Number one, we talk about it, money.
Oh yeah.
Oftentimes, some of them are staying not just for the children, they are staying because they know they cannot take care of themselves
No.
outside the home. And
Well,
we've seen it where the spouse will actually pack and leave the country
mm-hmm,
so that they don't get to pay anything, either spousal,
mm-hmm. Or child
you know,
support.
or child support, either one
Mm-hmm,
or both of them, right?
mm-hmm.
And so, how can, in your own understanding, dealing with these individuals, helping them out, how can we get prepared for ourselves just in case, if that is the case?
You mean as
As
just a
far as
simple?
the money, the funding is concerned, how can you are in a relationship, you live in control over to your spouse because you love your spouse, and but it never clued on you that maybe this is going to be the situation in the future. How can
Well,
we?
you can't really prepare yourself against domestic violence. I mean, because unless you have to be diligent up front. If you notice changes in him. But the problem is, I don't know if you know, most women think, oh, I can fix it. I just got to love him a little bit more. And we tell ourselves, oh, he's not going to do it in again. And, he was just upset. Maybe if I do this, or maybe if I do that, he won't be upset anymore. So you can't really, because you can't go into the marriage saying, I'm going to keep
It's,
my money to myself, because it is a marriage.
it
So
is a marriage.
the point is, when you notice changes and signs,
Mhm.
you have to just be diligent and notice that things are changing. But we don't. We before we know it, we all caught up. And your friends will see it. If you still in touch with your friends will say, well, that's not normal what's happening there. But you're not gonna listen because you've already made up your mind. You can fix him. This is not happening to me.
And so, if you have someone who's going through it and watching right now, and don't know where this is going to take that person. When it comes to taking care of their finances, what would you say?
As a single woman, and I've never been married, so I can only speak for me, but you have to maintain some type of control. I just, that's just me. You're in a marriage and you and him, the two of you are sharing things, and that's fine, and you should. But until things start to change, and you have to realize that I got to start taking care of myself. But as long as things are fine, you don't have to worry. He's going to take care of you. You're going to take care of him. But we're talking about when we're in those situations and you notice little subtle changes with him. If you can say, okay, I got to start picking up and doing things for myself now. But as women, we don't do that. We don't do that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I actually think that my personal opinion in this situation is, you know, again, it's not one and done because every situation is
Right.
different. But really, if you can, like you said before, you can have couples that, they put all their money in one basket, and that's fine
And
because
that works. It works for them.
it works for them. And I've seen couples that
Yes.
work for, right? But I've also seen where one person at a point gets control. They either withdraw all the money and the other person doesn't even know what's going on. By the
That's
time
it.
you find out, it's too late,
Yeah, that's
right?
it.
And it will seem that if everyone has their separate account, but they have the joint account together, at least if anything happens, you will have something for yourself that you're not depending on someone else entirely. And we're talking about women, but I also know that abuse goes both ways. It
With
goes for
men as
men
well.
and women. So if anybody's watching this, we're not just saying it's only
No,
for women. That's just what we're
no,
talking
not at
about.
all.
But we do know that abuse it goes for
It's
men as well.
universal.
Like
Men can
it's
be abused
universal,
too.
right?
Men can be abused, but it's harder for men to tell because they're looking at, oh my God, I got this woman beating on me. And it's harder for men to come out and say that because, he doesn't want, to look bad in front of his friends.
And we're talking about abuse. It's not. I think when anybody is getting into a relationship, you never know about an abuse.
You
And I
don't.
remember an instance where a man was being beaten, and now I can think back. This has been many, many years ago. My husband and wife. The
Mm.
woman was so short. This man was a big man. So for us at that time, we were still young. We couldn't really imagine that. But the woman will beat the husband up, and by the time people come to separate them, the woman will be the one shouting, and everybody will think that the
That
man
he
is
had,
beating
yeah.
the woman up.
And it was her
And the man never had the guts to say that the wife was beating him
beating him up. Yeah.
because of the shame that
Of
the
course.
society, because
That
of
was,
the shame, right? That doesn't make it right either. So as we're talking about women here, it's universal,
it's
both men and
universal.
women, right?
It's a universal thing. Men have it as just as bad as women. Yes, they do.
Yes. So talk to me now. Let's go to the children.
Yes.
And that's what, for the most part, we don't always talk about the children. The impact of domestic violence where the children are. What impact does it have on
Well,
these children?
most statistics have shown that when men grow up in an abusive house and they see their mother being abused,
Mm-hmm.
they grow up to become abusers.
Wow.
And
That's huge.
because they see that at home, and they grow up, that grows up in him. And unless they get counseling and get all of that out, I'm not saying 100% of the time, but it has been proven that when you find out a man is beating up on a woman, it's because he saw his mother being beaten, and he's perpetuating that behavior because that's what he saw his dad do. And now it can go the other way where a man grows up and he says, I make up my mind, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to treat a woman that way. But it has been cases where you ask them, why did you do that? Oh, my dad used to beat up on my mom all the time. And they
And all, go ahead.
that's normal.
It's talk about being normal. The same thing goes with young girls too,
Yes,
because oftentimes what I see is where a young girl experience the mother being beaten up, and when
right.
they grow up in a relationship, right?
They think
They
that's
in
normal.
turn get into the same cycle because it's normal as far as
Yes,
they concerned. They didn't see anything wrong with it. So even if they are getting beaten in that relationship, it's okay. My mom took it, so why don't I
right.
take it?
That
Right?
this is oh, my mom went through this, and she stayed with my dad, and he beat up on her, and whatever. So this must be normal. This must be normal. And so until somebody tells you no, that's not normal, you really don't know. Until you get to the point, no, this is not love. Because we all think that this is not love. Love doesn't hurt. Love
Love
love does
doesn't
not
hurt.
have to hurt. Love does not have to hurt.
And for the children as well, one thing I noticed is that oftentimes when you grow up in a home where you don't have a role model,
Yes.
you also grow up looking for a role model, and that may get you in trouble in one way or the other. That's
And
another impact.
young women that grow up without a father, you're looking for that father figure in a man. You're looking for that. Look, fathers validate their children, their girls. They tell them,
Yes.
you're pretty. They tell them that you're cute. They tell them that they love them. Well, if you didn't get that, some young girls grow up and they're looking for that in a man. And unfortunately, so many times you fall into it with the wrong man, and before it's too late, and before you know it, you're caught up and it's too late. But you're looking for that love that you didn't get, you know, and before you know it, he's like, he's telling you what you want to hear. Before you know it, you're caught up, and you got yourself caught up in a situation, but it was meeting a need, and you don't want to go outside of that because it's meeting that need that somebody telling you that they love you. So,
You
uh,
know, as we are talking, I'm thinking as I thought about interviewing you, a lot of things were coming to my mind because on one hand, you hear people saying before you get into the relationship, date that person for a couple
yes,
of months to a year.
yes,
But
definitely.
what I've also seen and know for sure is that that doesn't prevent domestic violence in a relationship. I've seen where now I can think back in those days when people they did not date, they get married, they married the rest of their life, and
Hmm.
that's okay, right? But I guess you can say things have changed now, and I don't know whether the era that we are in now makes it any difference where people are encouraged to date for so many months to a year because somebody can actually hide themselves
Yeah, but
until
if you give them time, cream rise to the top. If you give them time, that true color is gonna come out. It's not gonna come out in a week. It's not gonna come out in a couple of weeks. But you give it time, 3 to 6 months. If that he has potential for violence at some point in time, give it at least 6 months. I promise you, you're gonna see some signs. That has been shown over and over and over. But we get in a hurry. We get in a hurry, and we want to be in love. But if you date for just a short time and ask questions, we don't ask questions. Go around his family. Go around and see. Talk to him. Well, how was this? Get a chance to know each other. We don't get a chance to know each other. I don't think we spend enough time getting to know one another anymore. We just
Mhm.
get into a relationship, and before you know it, you didn't know that his dad was an abuser. You didn't know his uncle was an abuser. Well, now chances are he will be too. But you don't give yourself time for that when you just dive into a relationship and don't get a chance to know him.
Yeah, yeah. I think he can go both ways, you
Yes,
know. because I've seen relationships where people did not date. My parents didn't date, right? But again, that was in those days, right? The culture didn't
Mm-hmm.
allow them to date at that time, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, but one thing that even though the culture didn't allow them to date at that time, because that was the culture then,
Mm-hmm.
what the culture had was the two families knowing each other. They're doing the investigation for each family,
Right.
know the type of the parents,
Right.
know the type of, not even just that the family, the entire family, the village, the town.
Yes.
To know all these things, right? Make
We don't
sure
have
that
that.
the family is in good standing, first of all, before even they talk about the young man to marry, right? The
But
family has
right.
to be, the parents and the family have to be in
Right.
good standing,
But
right?
we don't do that anymore. We don't, we don't take we don't take young ladies don't take boys home to meet their parents to get to know them. They don't do that. You don't, you may date this one 2 or 3 weeks and then you move on to something else. So we don't take the time to be in relationships and get to know one another, and you get hooked up and before you know it, you're in a situation.
Yeah, I think what I can say is that every situation is definitely different.
Right.
I think as we talk, I want you to know that every situation
Situation is
is
different.
different. There may
Right.
be instances where I've seen people seeing each other in 1 or 2 days married, and they marry the rest of their
Right.
life,
That's
right?
true.
But
I have.
but we also know that's not always the case. I think what we're saying is either way, whether you did it or you did not date, take the time in that relationship. If things are not working out, you don't have to die because you are in a
Thank
relationship.
you. That's it.
That's really what we're saying. Whatever the situation is, you don't have to die in that relationship because, as I said, we've had people die being murdered in a relationship because one spouse refused to get out. And by
But
the
you
time
always have
they
the
get out, it's
power.
too late. Go
You
ahead.
always have the power to change your mind. Just
And
because you can change your mind, but
you can change your
you
mind.
can change your mind. You get in it and it's not working. Okay, this is not working. I need to get out of this
But let me say
because the
this.
problem and we don't get out.
Yeah, I think you're having some disturbances on your side. But you know, one thing I realized that in most relationships that people are not getting out, and I think also that has to do with culture as well. I think in developing countries, like where I came from, I was born and raised in Nigeria. Most women are divorce is frowned on, or if you get out in
Right,
a relationship, and as we know it, even I don't know how it is here in America, it's always the woman's fault if
right,
things doesn't work
right.
out, right? And it's just the way it is. That's just the fact of life. And
Hmm.
oftentimes, women stay in a relationship because they don't want people to talk about them, their
There
divorce.
you go.
And being
That's
a
it.
single parent is looked down upon, that you are a single parent.
Hmm.
That you, whether you are divorced and being a single parent, or whether you are a single and having baby out of wedlock,
Right.
a single parent is being looked at. You're not married. So for most of the time, people get into the relationship and stay in abusive relationship because they want that covering of a man
Right.
in
Right.
spite of the situation. They want that covering from a man
Right.
in spite of the situation. And we're saying you don't have to die in it.
No, you don't. And you don't have to be afraid to be alone. You have a lot of women that are afraid to be alone. It's okay.
Absolutely.
You have a
But
lot, with not, but I'm saying a lot of times women stay in a situation because it's better than being by myself. No, not really. But a lot of women I've heard women tell me, well, yeah, we have our problems, but at least I'm not by myself. At least, I don't have to spend time by myself. I have somebody to share my life with. But you're really not sharing your life with because you're being hurt. But we stay in it because I don't want to be by myself.
yeah, and you know what I realized, for oftentimes it is so because of the pressure from the society.
Right, Right.
It is so because people are gonna look at them as
Right.
divorcee
It's
or
divorcee, and
being
that's not the worst
single.
thing in the world.
All your mates or your colleagues or whoever, they're all married and you're still single, right? And it's really a mindset shift that women specifically women have to make. That mindset shift of it's okay in whatever status that I find myself.
Therein be content.
Whether, yes, whatever studies I find myself, that it's okay for
It's
me.
okay.
But I don't have to die in
Right.
trying to be in a status that is not comfortable.
If it's
Because
not comfortable, I need to
if
get
it's,
out.
if it's not comfortable, especially when you have children,
Yes.
because if anything happens to you, somebody else will come in and
And
raise those children.
that's it. And so is it worth it to stay there and put your life at risk because you can't give up, or you can't, you don't want to give up, or you don't want to say this is the end of it, It's not
Yes.
worth it. It's just not worth it.
Yes, it's absolutely not worth it. But before we run out of time, this we can go on, and this is a topic that it's really
Yes.
that is worth talking about. But let's talk about your book, The Blessing. Can you share with us the
Uh
fundamental of
yes.
blessing?
I wrote The Blessing in 2012. And to be honest, I told you that I had been in not physical, but emotional. So the blessing, as I wrote it as a way to get out everything that I was feeling. It's about
Mhm.
a young woman. She grew up in a dysfunctional family. Her father was abusive, not physically abusive to the mother, but he just didn't care. So basically, that grew up in her, that her father never cared. So she was looking for the love that she needed.
Mm.
Her name is Emily, and she's looking for the love that she didn't get there at home. So at the age of 16, Emily runs away from home, and she finds herself on the streets of Arizona. While she,
Mm.
and she's homeless for a few years, and then she meets this guy named Jeff, and Jeff is like the pudding on her plate, because it looks good. Everything looks good. He comes in, she's hungry, he feeds her. So in her mind, oh my God, here it is. So when she gets, first thing he did, he found her homeless, but she had made friends with the homeless people that she was. So when they started coming to visit her, he isolates her. He tells her, "I don't want them at my house anymore. They're trying to get in my
Wow.
business." So she didn't have anybody to talk to. And then he starts talking bad to her,
Mm.
telling her you don't need to go anywhere, telling her you don't need to work. You just need to stay here and take care of me, and you need somebody to cook. So it ends up. She didn't even know that he had been married. So they end up
Oh.
having to move back to where she grew up in Arkansas. So they moved back, and that's where the abuse begins, because he has to move back to take care of his sons. So all of the pressure of having to take care of his sons, and her not working, he begins to abuse her. And he abuses her to the point where she can barely walk. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story.
Because people need to go and buy the book, The Blessing.
Yes. So, but she realizes, she finds her strength. Like I said, you find your strength in what you're going through. And she begins to realize, I'm better than this. I'm better than this, and I don't have to put up with this. And she didn't have a support system. Even when she moves back to Arkansas, her mother is afraid of her dad. So her mother tells her, I'm sorry, I can't help you, because the mother's afraid that the dad would get on her. So Emily is stuck in this situation, and all she can do is just pray about it. And she continues to pray, and she's asking God for a way to get out of this. And it's unreal.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
unreal what happens. But I believe it's a good book, and I believe it's an on-time book for people to read. It's on Amazon as well as my website.
It's on Amazon. Give us the name again for the book.
The name of the book is The Blessing,
The
Emily's
Blessing.
Emily's story.
Emily.
uh Emily's story, Emily's heart, excuse me, Emily's heart. And it's on DeniseMontgomery.org, or it's also available on Amazon.
It's also available in Amazon. Audience, that's a good book to read. So go out and purchase one. So, we're talking about domestic violence.
Yes,
This month, the month of October, is
it's
Domestic
Domestic
Violence
Violence Month.
Awareness Month. And one of the things that I wanted us to talk about is women in a relationship, a bad relationship, even when they get out temporarily,
Mm-hmm.
they go back and they
Mm-hmm.
come out and they go back
Mm-hmm.
until something happens.
Mm-hmm.
What can you share with us for people that you have helped or that you work with? What are the reasons that will make somebody who has been beaten or been in a bad relationship go back? Now, I wanna say that people can be in a bad relationship and separate in case of couples,
Right.
right? Because sometimes it's needed so that you can clear your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, that's not what I'm talking about here, right? Maybe there was disagreement with one person and the other person doesn't agree. So that's a different thing. But I'm talking about where somebody is clearly being abused in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship, being
And they
beaten
and
up
they
in a
and they end
relationship.
up going back
They end up going back
because they don't think they can make it on their own. A
because
lot
they
of
don't
times,
think.
yeah, a lot of times I've heard women say, "Well, it's too hard. I got out here, I got my kids, I don't have any money, and if I go back, I know at least he's gonna keep a roof over my head. I know he's gonna keep a roof over my kids' head. Yeah, he may be beating me, but a lot of them, I don't have any skills. I haven't worked in years, and I don't have any money, so it's easier for me to go back and just put up with the abuse. That's not 100%, but I have had women to tell me it was just easier to go back.
And it goes back to that financial situation
Hmm.
that we talked about. Because if you can do things on your own, you'll be able to get out. But wait, this is United States, and women, at least for the children, whoever is staying for the children, you can get child support for the children.
Not if you're afraid of it. Not
Not
if,
even,
if you're afraid to leave and you do get out. Okay, if you get out and you ask for child support, he has a right to see the kids. Child support is not one way. You just not gonna get the money and then he not be able to see his kids.
okay, I see what you mean. That's in that case, if it's 50-50, nobody pays, right?
If it's 50-50, nobody pays. But even if he's paying child support, he has a right to see those kids. So that means he's got to see you too, because he got to come pick up the kids. So if I'm afraid, he's got to come and see. He's gonna get to see the kids anyway. What do I do?
Mm,
See,
mm.
so
So,
I stay there because if I leave, he's. If I leave and I just disappear, that's different. But if I want to get out and that means if I file child support, he's gonna see those kids. And
it's really a very difficult situation.
it
I don't
really
care
is.
how we dissect it. It's a
It really
very difficult situation to be in it. But what we are advocating is you don't have to die in it.
no, please
Before
don't.
you die in it, get out, look for some help. And
And,
talking about help, can you
yes,
share with us how they can get help?
you can call there are domestic violence hotlines in every state. You can call the police department. The problem is women will call, the police are going to come if and they're going to take him away, but they're only going to keep him for 36 hours. Okay, if you go press charges, that's different. But if they're going to give you a cooling off period or whatever. And so that's going to give you 36 hours to get out. Most women don't leave. I just wanted him to get away so he would stop hurting me. But he's got to come back. He's got to come back, and it's going to be 3 times worse because he was locked up for 3 days. So and the biggest problem is women will not press charges.
Mhm.
I mean, I've had so many victims say, Well, I didn't want to put him in jail. He called me and he told me he loved me. He called me and he told me he wasn't going to do it again. He said that he's going to get help. And, I really didn't want to see him locked up. So I didn't press charges. Okay.
Mhm,
So then,
mhm.
okay, then you right back in the situation.
So what we're really advocating is taking care of your first
Yes.
and the children, taking care of yourself and the children first. Even if you don't think about yourself, think about the children, the
Yes.
impact of those children, because
They're
it's going
being,
to manifest in one way or the other
oh, of
in their
course.
future. And oftentimes it doesn't manifest in a good way.
It's
It's
going to
always
manifest negatively because you don't know what the abuse is doing to your children. They're seeing it, they're hearing it, and unless you get them the counseling that they need, they're going to deal with it. They're going to have to deal with it too.
and we're talking about the counseling before we close.
There you go.
Let's talk about the counseling. How do you, somebody who has been in an abusive relationship, it's not, there's various degrees of your domestic violence. Some are minor, some are
Hmm.
not. Regardless, it's still domestic violence. But one of the things that people go through is that when they have been in that situation, they don't have the need, or so they say, that they don't go to counseling. What can you say about that? And how
Oh
does that?
no, you need to go and talk to a you need to go and talk to a counselor, and it just open confession is good for the soul. Tell somebody what you went through. Talk to somebody and get it out. Don't keep it in, because it stays in your head but it manifests throughout your body. You know what I'm saying? So tell somebody, get the counseling, do the work that you need to get healthy again. And you get healthy by talking to a counselor, helping somebody work through that. Why did I allow myself to stay in this situation for so long? What was in me that I didn't see that he was that, work, do the work to help yourself, do the work to help your children, get out there and find people that you can talk to. There are groups on domestic violence. There are counselors on domestic violence. The help is available, but you just have to ask for it.
And we're talking about getting help. One of the things that I know for sure is that in some homes,
Mm.
especially Black homes,
Of course.
is what stays inside the house, what
Stay.
happens inside the house stays inside the house. People outside the home are not supposed to know. But
No.
somebody is dying silently. That
Yes.
is one of the biggest thing, and that includes this domestic violence situation.
Right.
I remember it used to be years ago, when I grew up, it was like, even if somebody is sexually abused and you a
Yes.
young child, no one talks about it because it's almost like unheard of, or nobody will marry that child when that child, or that young adult
Mm-hmm.
grows up. So the family keeps everything inside the home. And guess what? I know today that those children, when they grow up, they never get away from it.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it impacted them negatively. Now I can look back to some of those individuals and how their life had transpired. I didn't know much about them,
Mm-hmm.
about what I'm talking about today. But if that can change, when people can talk about it, get some treatment,
Mm-hmm.
because when it comes to going to counseling, people shy up on that,
Wait,
going to
especially, yes,
counseling, right? Because
yes.
we look at it as there's something wrong with you. Why are you going to
Well,
counseling?
there is something wrong with you. There is something wrong with you. You've been
There's something
you
wrong with you, but not in
yes,
the way that people
no.
are always thinking about it, and that's one of the things. But we're not going to talk about it now. Well, that's one of the things. There's a lot of people that are dealing with mental illness, but nobody wants to visit the psychologist because it's a taboo in the home. Because when you talk about it, that people are going to say you're cuckoo, right? And as a result of that, You don't want to talk about it, but you know you are sick, especially when you're in a relationship. It's impacting that relationship
Yes.
in a large way. But because the society has made it, you gotta leave it inside the home so nobody knows. But everybody knows, but you are not doing something about it. That's really what I'm saying,
And
right?
when you, if you do happen to get out of that relationship and you don't get any counseling, you just go take it to the next relationship. And then when he says something, you, that flashes you back to what the other man said. So yeah, I mean, it's a vicious cycle. You take that trauma with you. So you know, yeah, it is something wrong, and you do need to talk to somebody about it.
And I think both people need to get help. It's not just the
Yeah,
person who got aware. The person who is doing the abusiveness
and the
needs to
abuser.
get help
Yes,
as well. But oftentimes is they don't even believe there's something wrong with them. It's
because
always the other person
right.
is
So they,
always the other person. They don't believe, and there are symptoms of being in narcissistic behavior there as well. They don't always see there's something wrong with them. It's always the other person. And again, we're talking about women, but we know that is the same with men. It's
yeah,
just that women, there's large number of women that this happens to.
yeah.
So as we close, I want you to take the floor as we close. Talk to us, talk to our listeners. If someone has been in an abusive relationship, never got help. If someone is currently in an abusive relationship, talk to us. How do we navigate this whole mess?
If you are in a, if you are in, have identified yourself as being in an abusive relationship, take ownership of it. Yes, this is what's happening. He shouldn't be hitting on me. The first thing is you seek a way to get out. Don't worry about, I got to take the clothes, I got to take the, just get out. Get out with your kids, get out, get out with whatever you have on your back. And if you have to just call the police to go and get someplace, you can't take everything with you. Maybe you can come back and get it. If you can, it's okay. So, but if you are being abused right now, you can't fix him. You cannot fix another person. The only person you can fix is you. And you are better than that. You deserve better than that. God loves you, and you have to love yourself enough to realize that you can do better than this. And there are people out there that can help you, and that are willing. Get to a shelter. Shelters are going to take you with your kids. So get to a place where somebody can help you. Don't stay in it and die. Please, just don't stay in it and die.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, audience. Thank you so much for your time and coming in. Before we close, quickly give the audience how they can contact you if you have something you want them to take part in.
You can go to my website, DeniseMontgomery.org. Go to my
Awesome.
website, drop me a message, send me a text. You can send me a message on my web. It's Denise, Denise, Montgomery, Montgomery.org. I'd be
Awesome.
glad to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. The
Thank you.
audience, listen. I've always said that when you watch this video, you got to share it because sharing is blessing. People
Correct.
cannot be blessed without you sharing. And you never know whose this message is going to
That's
impact.
true.
This conversation is huge. And I want you, as you watch it, in honor of the Domestic Violence Awareness Month, go ahead and share this message because this message, every time I do it, is to bless someone, and you never know who this message
That's
is
it.
going to bless. So go ahead and share the message.
Thank you for
Now,
your time.
remember, we do this every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And when I'm not doing this show, I have female entrepreneurs create amazing, captivating stories that align with your offer so that they can convert sales. And I help you turn your stories into a memorable presentation. Until next time, everybody. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye. Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.